no, your ass better call somebody.
The energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, reppin' both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire, misunderstood. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline greens, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. Rob hype on the mic, CP's the fire spark. Together they ignite, voices like the park. Fans drift in jerseys, legacy bold. The Metropolitan story forever told. Turnstile spinning, the crowd floods the gates. This is family, no time for debates. Crack of the Batman, the roar never fades. Queens in the blood, it's how champions are made. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline gleams, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. 7-line swagger, vibes electric and wild. Mets legacy golden since I was a child. Orange crushed skies, let the battle ignite. Ride for the home team till the last fight.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazing Mets pregame show right here on the channel and on X. And it is do or die time for our New York Mets. As if they lose and the Reds win, it is over for the New York Mets for 2025, as they will miss the playoffs this season, just ending a year of disappointment. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome to the show. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Yesterday was just another day where the Mets found ways not to win a ball game. It's just that simple. You know, I can officially say now that Brandon Sproat is another one who probably wasn't ready to be called up to the major leagues yet. He is a guy that's still working on things. You can tell that second time through the order in most of his starts have been an issue. That has been the issue with Brandon Sproat. Again, not blaming him, not blaming the kid. I'm just not. But again, you had your ace of the staff, which is, a stretch, because again, you have nobody. So anybody better than the bad is your ace, unfortunately. And Nolan McLean is that guy as well. The other 2 days ago, Nolan McLean made the game interesting when he did not need it to be. When you have that title as an ace, you got to perform like one. That game should have been no contest. I think it actually gave a little juice to the Marlins, even though the Mets won game one. They came back the next day, and I just don't. I'm sorry, against the Cubs, and then came back today or yesterday against the Marlins, game one, and they just didn't play well. The defense was bad. The at-bats were bad. It just wasn't good. It was not good. Another 4 2/3 performance from Mets pitching. Go figure. And how fitting is it, Mets fans, that a do-or-die game that the Mets probably have to win? And again, the Mets can lose and the Reds can lose, and then we'll go into tomorrow hoping that they lose and we win to make the playoffs. Right? That can happen. That can obviously happen. The Brewers are still playing for something. They are right there neck and neck for best record with the Phillies when it comes to getting the number 1 overall seed, having home field advantage throughout the playoffs in the National League. That's important. So they will be playing for something. But I hate relying on another team, because as much as the Brewers want to get that overall number 1 seed, they also don't want to get guys hurt. And they're not going to extend pitchers that they normally would in a crucial game. They're in. So it's the worst case scenario for the Mets. And again, they had every opportunity to continue to control their own destiny. If they won yesterday, I said it, they had to go 2-4 in their last 4 games. They're on the verge of doing much worse. And unfortunately, it really doesn't matter what the Mets do anymore because they can win the next 2 games. The Reds can win the next 2 games, and we're out of the playoffs. It's frustrating. It's sad. And if the Mets, and no matter if it's today or tomorrow, if they don't make the playoff, heads need to roll. I don't want to hear this bullshit about fire Hefner, fire Chavez, fire Barnes. I don't care about them. Stop blaming the coaches for the same players that continue to fail. That's a fact. That's a fact that not enough Met fans want to talk about. This core is rotten. It's been rotten, and we still act like it's okay. Met fans put all the pressure on Steve Cohen and the organization a couple of years ago to sign Brandon Nimmo. Disaster of a contract. The Mets fan wanted to give every dollar possible to Pete Alonso when he was part of this rotten core. Jeff McNeil, same thing. Those 3 guys have been here before Lindor, before Soto. These guys, like, we act like 2019 didn't happen. Pete Alonso had a great year, but do we all forget what happened in 2019? They had a crazy, excellent August. They got right back in the playoff hunt, and they choked down the stretch in September. Guess who was on that team, guys? It was the Nimmos. It was the Alonsos. It was the McNeils. And yes, a lot of things had other factors in it, no doubt. But they failed down the stretch in that 2019 season. Go back to 2021. Right? It was kind of a weird year. You get in Lindor and all that fun stuff, but they weren't there, right? This, again, don't tell Met fans this, but all of a sudden now it's not Pete Alonso's team, right? When the Mets lose and they choke, it's not Pete Alonso's team. But when the Mets make a run, it's all of a sudden Pete Alonso's team. So when the Mets are good, it's Pete Alonso's team. When the Mets are bad, it's Pete Alonso. It's not Pete Alonso's team. It's Lindor's team. This is what I'm hearing from social media, from Mets fans, right? It's not Pete Alonso's fault. It's Lindor's fault. Now it's Soto's fault. Then they blame everybody else but the guy who is the face of the franchise. Pete Alonso has been the face of the franchise, along with DeGrom. When DeGrom was gone, it was Pete Alonso. If anybody doesn't believe that, then they're lying to you because they don't want any negativity towards Pete Alonso. I'm sick and tired of bringing back the same team every single year. You added Juan Soto, yet the core is still rotten. So is it Juan Soto's fault? Because in 2023, Juan Soto wasn't here. Right? We all forget that the Mets were 11 games under 500 and had to fight back the entire year and couldn't make no mistakes last year down the stretch. And it still took them to game 161 to make the playoffs. Like, we act like this last year without Juan Soto, they won 97 games and they sailed into the playoffs. They didn't. Every year it's been a struggle fighting for our lives, either for a division and then choking that away. Who was a part of that team? Right? We all forget about that. Right? Lindor was just 2 years in. And that was again, you want to blame Lindor, you can blame Lindor all you want. But it came down to the fact that Nimmo and Alonso, that was their team. That was their team, and it's still there. It's still basically their team. Everybody wants to say it's Lindor's team now. It's funny how the Mets are doing bad. Now it's Lindor. He's not a leader now. Well, when was Pete Alonso ever being a leader? Because all I see is a guy who can't come up big defensively when you need him. He made that great double play yesterday. I was shocked he actually threw the ball somewhat straight to Francisco Lindor to turn that double play. But after that, that dive that he made, that the ball went past him, that would have been a hell of a play. That was a rocket. I'm not blaming him on that one. But a ball it's hit hard, but it's right at you. You got to make that play. You got to get that runner going home. You have to. I'm sorry. And that wasn't probably the moment of the game where it was just over. the moment of the game is letting Sandy Alcantara get into a groove. Because I said it on the pregame yesterday, me and Chris, when we did a pregame yesterday, I said, you got to go to Sandy Alcantara early. If you don't, you're going to be in trouble because he's going to find his groove and he's going to mow you down. And when the Mets couldn't score in the earlier innings after the 2 runs, leaving men on base, keeping the Marlins in the game, we all saw it coming. If everybody saw it coming. And again, when you rely on these rookies, nobody knows who these guys are going to be. You can hope all you want for these guys, but nobody can tell me confidently that any of these guys are going to be good going forward. Brandon Sproat is a question mark. Jonah Tong is a question mark. Nolan McLean is a question mark. If you believe anything other than that, then you're the biggest fool, and David Stearns loves that type of fan. That is the problem. David Stearns allowed this to happen. These guys should have never been here. Maybe McLean, but McLean should have been the 3rd option in this rotation. Yes, blame Minaya. Yes, blame Kodai Senga. Yes, blame David Peterson. But overall, when you put a bullshit rotation together in the offseason, and everybody told me that it's going to be okay, and I've told you from day one, and I want to make sure everybody knows this because a lot of people think I'm full of shit. But guess what? Go back to opening day. I was in a hotel in Houston, first pregame show of the year. I was in the hotel room in Houston along with Chris, and we made our predictions. And I says, I don't trust this rotation. Even when they were the best rotation in baseball, I still didn't trust them because there was underlying problems with this rotation, even when they had the best rotation in baseball. But the underlying problem was the innings that they were not providing. They were not providing those innings in those 2 months. And it ultimately got people hurt in the bullpen. It was overuse of the bullpen. And then it turned into a shit show. And everybody's like, oh, well, it happened when Kodai Senga got hurt in the middle of June. It wasn't just that. It wasn't. The bullpen was falling apart at the seams before that. And guys weren't pitching like they supposed to be pitching. It wasn't the Cannon injury. These guys weren't pitching great. They never sniffed the 6th inning. It was, let's wait until David Peterson does it. Because nobody else did it. And everybody's like, you only care about the innings. Yeah, because when you don't give us innings, you're expecting 12 to 15 outs from your bullpen nearly every game. And no matter how good your bullpen is, they're not going to be perfect every single game. Constantly. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to fold. They're going to give up runs. It is just inevitable. You need better starts. You need more than quality starts. You don't even get quality starts. Forget about quality starts. We barely get that. But it was so hard to get a quality start from this rotation, regardless of who was in the rotation. We couldn't get a quality start. The time to make those moves was in June. If everybody wants to talk about injuries and Griffin Canning, Kodai Senga, then if they trusted Nolan McLean that much, and we all know they didn't, because if they did, they would have brought him up in June. Because that was the time when you needed at least one of these guys, not in August. And we all know why they waited until August, because they wanted to do everything they can to keep their rookie status for next year. And you know what? David Stearns, you accomplished that. Nolan McLean missed his innings to not be considered a rookie by 2.5 innings. So excited. I know I'm so excited that in 2031, he can become a free agent. I'm so excited about that. I know everybody else is. Because who gives a shit about 2025? Nobody cares, apparently. David Stearns doesn't care. Cohen act like he doesn't care, like David Stearns ain't the problem. You know what? Great. Then we can have the same conversation next year when we need to get an ace of the staff. If anybody tells me Nolan McLean is an ace, you're a moron. I don't want to hear it. He's a solid pitcher that still needs to prove that he's a top starter. If you want to make him the number 2, I'm fine with that. But go get a fucking ace. Don't tell me this bullshit about Kodai Senga. Sean Manaea needs to be a number 3 or number 4. Clay Holmes, if not in the bullpen, needs to be a number 5. Or even David Peterson and put Clay Holmes in the bullpen. Because I'm sick and tired of this reclamation projects, bad pitchers, because no good pitcher signs short-term deals. None. That's including Sean Manaea. It's not like teams are racing to run get him. This guy has a career 4 ERA, and they told us, hey, he's our ace because of 4 months of a season. He was outstanding in those 4 months. But let's be honest, guys. Sean Manaea has been an average pitcher in most of his career. Why do you expect anything more? Like, believe the propaganda all you want from David Stearns. He is full of shit. He is the typical nerd that thinks he knows everything, and he tries to outsmart everyone. And at the end of the day, when all the pages are turned and we're at the end of the season, the joke's on him. And that is the problem. The fact that you couldn't do it in 2 opportunities in the offseason and at the trade deadline. And by the way, I'm so glad Sandy Alcantara embarrassed us yesterday. So glad. Because didn't I tell you at the trade deadline, this guy was going to come back to haunt us. This guy has an outstanding second half. This guy goes 6 innings every single start. Every single start. He goes 6 innings. Can a Mets pitcher do that? Consistently? No. I'm sorry. I am sick and tired of people continuing to act like it is okay, because there was way too many people okay about how this rotation was put together. It was a joke. How do you not have a guy that you can actually trust? I said it in the offseason. I did not want Sean Manaea if nobody that was better was coming with him. You cannot make your big pitching acquisition and your top pitcher that you signed or traded for to be Sean Manaea. That was a failure waiting to happen. And if you didn't believe that, then you just didn't want to believe it. And too many Met fans were way too giddy about that. For $25 million, you could have done a lot more with that money. Or you could have done what I said you should have done. Garrett Crochet was the guy to get. The guy was under 30. He's young. You would get a team-friendly deal after you traded for him. And I didn't give a shit who you traded for. Because there is nobody on this team that is going to be as good as Garrett Crochet. I'm going to guarantee that. And you know what? If I happen to eat my words in 2 years, fine. But I don't think Nolan McLean's going to be that guy. I don't think Tong's going to be that guy. And I don't think Sproat's going to be that guy. Am I saying they're not going to be good pitchers? No. They could be a part of this rotation. They could be solid pitchers. They could be number 3s, maybe even a number 2. But you had the opportunity to get Garrett Crochet. You were in conversation with the White Sox about him. You could have done it. You could have traded a couple of prospects because, God forbid, this is the reason why Mauricio doesn't play, because the idiot couldn't cover third base after he came in for Brett Beatty. Like, simple baseball IQ it takes to realize that, hello, you got to make sure you cover third base. You got to have the eye on the runner. You allowed that to happen. And then on top of that, this is the reason why Acuna doesn't play. This is the reason why Mauricio doesn't play, because their baseball IQ is very low. And all we're doing is lowering their value, because every time you put them in, they do something that is stupid. They should have traded for Garrett Crochet. We wouldn't have had to deal with this bullshit. Because at least Garrett Crochet, even with all the injuries we already had. Let's say you would have traded for Garrett Crochet and you would have signed Sean Manaea. Maybe you would have not got Montas, but you would have got Griffin Cannon. And injuries would have still happened with Kodai Senga and Griffin Cannon. At least you know every fifth day you got an ace of your staff. There got to be a stopper stopping 7-game losing streaks or a guy to extend a winning streak. We don't have any of that. We haven't had it all year. Because you're going to tell me Garrett Crochet couldn't have won us 2 or 3 more games? Because if we would have won 2 or 3 more games throughout the season, this would have been a no contest. We would have clinched already. That's the problem. It's stupid. Yeah, Kev, the roster is primarily fixed, but that's bullshit. That is what David Stearns wanted you to believe, and a lot of Met fans believed it. This team roster construction was terrible, and it started, as I said on the first pregame show of the year. I did not like that Luisano Acuna made the team when he didn't deserve to make the team. Brett Beatty outplayed him in spring training by a large margin, and I know Jeff McNeil went down. I get that. But they didn't sign Jose Iglesias because they said Luisano Acuna is the guy that they want to focus on. And I'm not saying Iglesias would have made a difference this year. Who knows? But in a backup situation, you're going to use one of your top prospects as basically a platoon bench player. That didn't make no sense from the jump. And then everything seems to be like everybody was okay with it. I thought it was stupid. I would have rather seen a veteran there as a backup because at least the veterans know I am the backup. Like you wasted a whole year of Luisano Acuna for nothing. Same thing goes for Mauricio. These guys should have stayed in the minor leagues and got the at-bats and got the playing time. Because all you did this year was make them lose value because anytime you did play them, they didn't look good. And nobody cares about just speed because you can find speed all around baseball as a bench player. So that's nothing special. So 2 of your top 10 prospects have been sitting on the bench the majority of the season, and you're making them lose value. They don't look good when they play, and they're not getting the at-bats and the playing time that they need, that they should have gotten in the minor leagues. That is why when I said at the trade deadline, you got to trade 2 of these 4 guys. If that was out of Beatty, Vientos, Acuna, and Mauricio, you had to do it. And if it means overpaying to get Sandy Alcantara, number one, you don't have to face him. How did that work out for the Mets? Twice they faced him over the last month and a half. He dominated us both of those starts. We didn't win those games. That's number one. You don't have to face him. Number two, you actually got a real ace on your team. Not some bullshit that the Mets are giving you, saying that Kodai Senga, who can't pitch in the heat all of a sudden, and is a guy who is not hurt, but has missed and not played and not pitched for this team in dire need of them needing pitching. He couldn't grow a pair and step onto the mound. You know what? If the Mets lose today and the Reds win and the Mets are officially eliminated, you know who's going to pitch? Kodai Senga in game 162. You know why? Because he is a fucking coward. That's why. He's a coward. He's not trustworthy. He is often injured, and he's not very good. And when you need him the most, he is not there for you. It's unfortunate. Look, when it comes to Beatty, yeah, he did get a long leash, but you know why the Mets gave him a long leash? Because they didn't really have anybody at that position until last year when Mark Vientos came up and finally took over that job. The only reason why Beatty got the long leash was because there was nobody else at the moment, right? There was really nobody at third base. And Vientos didn't turn into the player he did last year. So that's why he got a long leash. And that's fine. But you know what? If the Mets didn't give him that long leash, we wouldn't have the Brett Beatty we have now, right? It's not like the Mets had a great third baseman and they said, you know what? I don't want to have this great third baseman. I want to keep on giving Brett Beatty a number of chances. The fact that Brett Beatty went back down to the minors, learned how to play second base at a very good level, by the way, defensively, and he played outstanding in spring training. Because when McNeil goes down and Mendoza says there's a competition for second base, and when you say competition, that means somebody's got to win the job. Brett Beatty dominated that competition against Luisano Acuna. There was no need for Luisano Acuna to be up here as a top prospect sitting behind on the bench for no reason, and then platooning him. And then when Brett Beatty struggled, Acuna got the opportunity to be the second baseman. He failed, and then they went back. Jeff McNeil got healthy. Brett Vientos was playing like crap. Now Beatty came back, and all of a sudden, he started to hit. He started to play better defense, and he actually became the better player out of all of them. So it just doesn't make sense. And oh, by the way, Beatty is on the IL, so technically his season is over. And he'll probably won't be ready for the wild card round. He's been working out, trying to, because again, if you're on the IL during the second to last game of the year, the IL kind of gets washed. So if he feels good over the next day or two, he can be on the postseason roster, but we'll see. It just doesn't make sense. Like the whole roster construction was bad. When you have 46 pitchers step on the mound to start for the New York Mets, that is already concerning before you even talk about anything else. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And it's frustrating because this team should have been better. But I never understand. Like, I have no problem making the finishing touches at the trade deadline, but you left yourself very exposed for many problems prior to the deadline. If David Stearns believed that this rotation was going to survive the whole season, then he shouldn't be the president of baseball operations. He needs to be fired. Now, it's not going to happen, but you can't be that naive. You can't have your head so far up your ass and acting like you're so smart and you're better than everybody else. I'm sorry. Even the most positive Met fan believed, even Chris, who was on board with this rotation, he even said that he think it would be an okay rotation. It would be fine. It's crazy to me. Like, and then on top of that, when you put your roster together to start the season, there's got to be less holes when you start the season. Because at the end of the day, you're always going to need a bullpen arm or two. It's just how it goes. So you already know you're going to go after bullpen. That's just the thing that everybody tries to do when you're in a playoff race. But that's if you only need bullpen help. But unfortunately, the Mets needed a big-time starter, multiple bullpen arms. And why do we need multiple bullpen arms? We needed not just good bullpen arms, not the Staniks of the world or guys like that. We needed really good setup closer type, like really important bullpen arms, multiple. And that led to giving up 12 prospects, and it's not like anybody was any good or, great. Drew Gilbert has been fine, but nothing crazy. But, you gave up all those, you gave quantity to teams for 3 relievers when the ultimate problem ended up being your starting rotation. Because I think you could have went out, you could have had Gregory Soto, and you could have got Tyler Rogers, and you could have used whatever else package you needed to get a starting pitcher. And a top starting pitcher. You could have done it. You just didn't want to. Like, let's not give any excuse to David Stearns. He didn't. You know what? Met fans, you're partly to blame too, because there was a lot of people that did not want to trade for a top starter. I know one person said Joe Ryan, but we already knew the Twins kind of squashed that idea a day or two before the trade deadline. Alcantara was still in play until the last couple of hours at the trade deadline when the Marlins officially said they're not trading him. You could have done it. You didn't want to. Edward Cabrera was a possibility as well. You didn't want to give up what you wanted, what they wanted. And at the end of the day, I always will take the proven talent over a guy who's a big question mark. And yes, I would have traded 2 top young arms. I would have. Because I don't think anybody understands that all 3 of these guys are not going to be top line starters. They're just not. They're just not. It doesn't work out that way for anybody. Why do we think the Mets are an exception? Like, you got to be delusional. And that is the problem. That is the problem within itself. And yeah, look at Buehler, right? That could have been no, I'm not saying that he would have been the difference maker and the Mets wouldn't be in the same spot. But you know what? He is a guy that has experience. He is a veteran. You don't got to worry about his goddamn innings. And you know what? He is a guy that I can guarantee you is going to be very important to the Phillies postseason roster. Because if you don't think that Buehler is going to be on the postseason roster, you're nuts. See, it's simple things like that that is annoying. It's just stupid. I just don't understand it. It's sad because when you see a team struggling so bad and then ultimately, let me just put it that way because that word's just not coming out of my mouth today. They did not plan to bring these kids up at all. Maybe Nolan McLean as a September call-up. That was the only thing that I could say maybe would have been a possible. That was probably what they planned. But we didn't need them in August. We needed at least one of them in June. And when David Stearns gets the question, why didn't you bring these Nolan McLean up earlier? And he's going to say, well, I didn't want him to make a spot start and blah, 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 and all that nonsense. How is it going to be a spot start? You lost Griffin Cannon and you lost Kodai Senga. He would have at least pitched 6 starts before Kodai Senga and Shomanaya came back. And if he pitched well, he ain't going anywhere. You put Clay Holmes in a bullpen. Like, I just don't understand it. Like, that is the biggest lie that he can tell. And he will say that. We know why he didn't come up prior to when he did. Because they wanted to make sure that even by the skin of their teeth that he's going to retain his rookie status. Because if he wins the Rookie of the Year next year, because he's not going to pitch enough innings this year, and he becomes the Rookie of the Year this year or misses out on it, or they get a draft pick. That is why. Because it's David Stearns only cares about the future. He does not care about the present. He believes that offseason additions are the end-all be-all, and you got to, make little moves at the deadline and then let the rest play out. But he was in so much dire strait this year and so desperate that this is something he wouldn't have done. This was such a desperate move to save his own ass. He was hoping that to shut up Met fans, number one, you bring up all these kids. That was goal number one. He did that because Met fans didn't complain. Like, I don't know why Met fans are complaining. You wanted the kids up. So you made your bed. You wanted these guys. Why do you expect these guys to be the end-all be-all and be the saviors? They ultimately weren't going to be. And nobody should be shocked by that. Now, it should have never got to this point. That's the problem. You just hope that a guy like Jonah Tong isn't, you didn't destroy his confidence. Because that could be a problem. He was already mentally soft and mentally fragile. That's obvious. Every time he got knocked around, he looked like he was going to cry in the post game. It's a joke. So, number one, David Stearns needs to answer for all his mistakes because a lot of his additions, his trade acquisitions, his free agent acquisitions were terrible. You couldn't have been. It's very hard to be this bad with all your acquisitions. At least one of them could have turned out well. Not really. So, yeah, good tube. I agree. I understand. Yeah, without Nolan McLean, it would have been a problem. But you know what? We wouldn't have to worry about this stretch if you would have brought Nolan McLean up in June and he might have won 2 or 3 more games. We wouldn't be talking about this. We might have 84 wins right now. It's not a ton of more wins, but you know what? It would have probably been, hey, if Cincinnati loses one more game, the Mets win one more game over. We're in the playoffs. That's the problem. This is the overall issue. And I just don't understand. Well, music, that's what I said. He didn't want to use his rookie status and he wanted to squeeze another year out. That's a problem. When your team is in need, you have pieces in your farm system. Like, why do you have a farm system if you're not going to use them when you need them? That is the whole point of a farm system. Like, that's what I don't understand. Like, rookie status, an extra year for a prospect needs to go out the window when your team needs that on their major league roster. That has to go out the window. And I know for a fact that was David Stern's call. This wasn't, Steve Cohen's not going to go to him and say, oh, you know, let's worry about 2031 when he's a free agent. No, he can care about that. He ain't going to care about that. You still got him for 5 years at least. That's what I don't understand. That it does not make sense. If you're so desperate for that draft pick, then like this is not the Milwaukee Brewers who depend on their draft picks every year because they know they're not going to spend money on big time free agents and add money for big trades. That's understandable. That's a philosophy to have for the Milwaukee Brewers. You can't have that philosophy with the New York Mets, with a big market team. You can't do that. You can't. This had nothing to do with money. This has nothing to do with anything for another 6 years. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. And like this was the downfall. Because you didn't make a decision because you got your head so far up your ass when it comes to this future nonsense, when at the end of the day, this team could look a hell of a lot different next year, and who gives a shit about the future? Like, we always just wait for the future, and the future never comes. Worry about the present. You can still maintain and have a grasp of your future and worry about the present. Because the teams that are making the playoffs every year are making trades at the deadline, getting their needs of the team, bringing up prospects if they need them at any moment. But not the Mets. They half-ass deadlines. They don't use their farm system properly when the major league team needs something. The only thing David Stearns has done this year was basically have a direct bus going back to Syracuse and wherever the Mets are, back and forth. Because all he knew how to do was option guys. That is all. David Stearns' middle name is options. That's all he did. It looks like he's doing work, but it's ultimately causing Mendoza to deal with more shit. Do you know how many times Mendoza had the same bullpen every single day? And I happened to look this up. I was curious. Now, last year, there wasn't a lot of options with a lot of guys for David Stearns to go back and forth with. It was kind of what it is. And the Mets were kind of successful with that. They made some trades at the deadline that helped. But it was mostly the guys that were already in the bullpen. You would option a guy here or there that was a long man type of guy that you needed a spot start or you needed some innings. But it was rare. It wasn't a lot of times. It was nearly every day. So I'm going to give this to you. The Mets have played 159 games. For 136 games, that's right, let me say it again. For 136 games, Carlos Mendoza had a completely different bullpen. And I'm not talking about one or two guys. It was constantly 3, 4 guys different in a series. Constantly. These are guys that Carlos Mendoza probably never met in spring training. Like, that's how many guys have constantly gone on in and out of this bullpen. Constantly. Some guys are not even in the organization anymore. It's how can you tell a manager to manage a bullpen when he doesn't even know half these guys exist in the organization that are constantly in this bullpen? And when your starting pitchers can't give you 5 innings, and if they even give you 5 innings, it's like a miracle, you got to use guys you don't know. Who are these guys? Oh, we got a great fastball? Oh, great. So we can strike out AAA guys. I have no idea what he's going to do here. But you know what? I've already taxed my bullpen for the last 5 games, so I got to use this scrub that nobody's ever heard of every single day, and I'm relying on him to help me win a game. You know how hard that is for a manager to deal with? So all the criticism that Mendoza gets, and Mendoza deserves some. He's not going to be barred from criticism. He won't be. He's part of the problem. But if everybody believes that Mendoza has had an easy year when it comes to roster, you guys are just completely lost. For 136 games this year, there's been at least 2 different guys in the bullpen for 136 of the 159 games they played. That's a joke. It's a joke. And oh, by the way, not only did he just constantly rotate the bullpen, like a vacuum every day, and option guys in and out of AAA back to the majors constantly all year, because constantly the Mets make moves in the bullpen every day, every freaking day. Not only did David Stearns do that, but he's gonna as soon as Mauricio got healthy, Carlos Mendoza looked at his roster, says, I got Mauricio, Acuna, Vientos, and Beatty on this roster. Most of them play the same position. And oh, by the way, I still have Jeff McNeil. What are we doing? That already screwed up Mendoza even more, because you have 4 of your top prospects that were in your top 10 at some point in the organization over the last 2-3 years on your roster, with 2 of them constantly sitting on the bench for the majority of the games, and might pinch run, might get a pinch hit appearance, might start once a week. That is not good roster construction. You know how hard it is for a manager to get those kids playing time when all they did since Little League, because they're better than everybody else in every level. That is why they're big leaguers. And that is why they're professional ball players. These guys are used to playing every day. They're not guys that are used to sitting on the bench for 3 days, cold as hell, and says, hey, we need a big hit here. Go pitch it in the 8th inning. That's not you. Those guys are the guys that are like that can sit on the bench and come up in a big spot and pinch hit. That's a veteran spot right there, not a top prospect. Even if it's a minor leaguer that is not a top prospect, but somebody's having a good season and he's just showing power in the minors. All right, bring him up. Fine. But for your top prospects to sit on the bench a lot of the time, it's stupid. It's stupid. I'm just frustrated by it, because the roster construction from day one was idiotic. There was competitions that needed to be won, and guys won those jobs, yet the competition for the 2 players ended up being on the roster anyway. What does that tell the player? And oh, by the way, the guy who actually won the job did not start on opening day because of a lefty. I was furious about that when I saw the lineup. Pissed. Brett Beatty busted his ass in spring training, not only to learn another position and play it well, by the way, but hit in spring training, which he always did. But when you say there's a competition, you go to the best guy that played in spring training. Yet on opening day, you tell Brett Beatty to sit down because there's a lefty on the mound, and Luis Angel Acuna started on opening day. That is just stupid. I'm sorry. Give Brett Baty the opportunity who earned it on opening day. Let him get his name called. He deserved it. But no, give it a guy who didn't have a good spring training. Let his name be called on opening day to play second base. When ultimately the guy who started on opening day did not win the job. It's stupid. It's stupid. And you know what, David? Sign Diaz, sign Alonso. I don't want Alonso. I think Alonso is such a big part of the problem because Alonso has been here along with Nimmo for the longest, along with McNeil. Put those three guys together. They've been here. They've constantly been on teams that has constantly just choked or just didn't have bad seasons or did have bad seasons. And again, it's not just all about the numbers. It's also about what Pete Alonso did yesterday, fielding wise. That's another problem. Simple things. Like we do have a first baseman, and I told you who it's going to be. And if you don't believe me, you're not paying attention. It's going to be Ryan Clifford. I'm telling you this right now. I'm sorry, nobody wants to hear it, but I've been saying it for months now. Ryan Clifford, if you want the Mets to spend money, they are not giving Pete Alonso 5-6 years. They're just not doing it. They didn't want to do it last year. You think they're going to do it this year? This is a whole new ball game here. Steve Cohen is not going to have a say in a situation. The only reason Met fans were done with Pete Alonso prior to that home run in the wild card round, they were done. But because he hit that home run and he had a successful playoffs, Steve Cohen heard the noise and heard the rumblings of Met fans, and he stepped in. If you don't make the playoffs, or if you sneak into the playoffs and get embarrassed by the Dodgers, that's over with. Steve Cohen is not going to step in here and just appease the fans just so they can cheer Pete Alonso on opening day. I am sick and tired. No, David, you can't keep on saying that Alonso was trying too hard. All right? He's been trying too hard since 2019. All I see is a guy who continues to choke in the biggest spots. And especially when you are the guy, and you're the face of this franchise, you need to be better than what you've done down the stretch. Sorry, you have to. Because you know who's been hitting? You know who's been playing damn good? Lindor and Soto. It seems like they showed up. It's always Nimmo and Alonso that find ways to have the worst at-bats, the worst fielding mistakes, and the worst throwing errors ever during these stretches. Yeah, David, Alonso, I don't care if he's the face of the Mets. Jacob deGrom was the face of the Mets, and the Mets didn't give two shits about that. Pete Alonso is more about Mets fans than they are about him on the overall team. You can't keep on bringing – if you bring back Alonso, you're telling everybody that this is your team for the foreseeable future. A team that had won 89 games last year, and who knows? Right now they got 82. They can have max 84 wins. That doesn't excite me. David, no, I don't want McNeil back. I don't want Alonso back. And I think you should trade Nimmo. I'm sorry. I think you should. I think you need to revamp this whole thing. You don't give 10 years to Lindor. You don't give 15 years to Juan Soto and play around with the same guys in Nimmo, Jeff McNeil, and Alonso, who's constantly gone through losing seasons, and they've been the center of this team. They were the core prior to Lindor. Even with Lindor now, since 2021, he was a part of this core. They constantly lose, and it's the same guys. McNeil with the bad attitude, Nimmo with the way too much positivity when things are falling apart, and then Pete Alonso, the same goddamn comments every day. Pete, if you're the face of the franchise and you're supposed to be a leader, which you never are, I can't hear you say the same thing. We know we're better than this. We know we got this. Him and Nimmo, same shit. I don't want to hear the positivity. I don't want to hear that you're good. You're not good. You are going to have at most 84 wins this year. That is not good. 3 games over 500 doesn't excite me. So what if you make the playoffs? Am I supposed to give you a standing ovation because you snuck in? Because the other teams that are chasing you sucks just as much? No. I am sick and tired of this rotten core that has been here 2018 to 2019 and rode the wave into mediocrity every year. And we're going to blame everybody else because that's what everybody's going to do. Pete Alonso's not to blame. Brandon Nimmo's not to blame, even though there's some Met fans that have been blaming Brandon Nimmo. But those are the same Brandon Nimmo haters all of a sudden that wanted to sign him a couple of years ago. It's stupid. The fact that Met fans are all of a sudden hiding from this, right? Because where are all the Met fans that were bitching and moaning that we shouldn't trade for Sandy Alcantara because, one, he'll be too expensive, and two, he wasn't having a good season. There's no conversation about that. You know why? Because they saw what Sandy Alcantara can do. He did it twice against the Mets in a month. And what he's done since the All-Star break. It's been quiet. Go figure. I'm here every day. I tell you my wrongs. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And that's fine. Are the Mets winning? Because that's all I care about. The fact that Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo, and Jeff McNeil continue to have failed seasons. And it's not just about numbers. It's about when do you hit those runs? And the same thing goes for Juan Soto. There's a lot of his solo home runs that are nonsense as well. But this is Juan Soto's first year. If you're going to blame him on 1 year, then why are you blaming the other guys that have been a part of this team for years? That's the problem. You got to change something. And don't tell me changing Jeff McNeil is going to make the difference. I think you got to make massive moves. I'm talking about earth-shattering changes. You can't miss the playoffs with a biggest payroll in baseball. You have most home runs by Brandon Nimmo. You have a 30-30 season again from Lindor. You have a 40 home run guy in Soto. Pete Alonso is probably going to hit 40 home runs. And you missed the playoffs? No. David, I don't know. Probably not. I think Brett Baty should get the third base job. Why not? I told you Vientos, he showed up for 1 month this year. Everybody got excited, and he's been a piece of crap the rest of the time. He's another one that should have been riding the bench. And I said it from the beginning. I would have traded all these goddamn guys. Get people in here who I can trust. Give me proven talent. Because you know what? Look at the Boston Red Sox. The two guys I wanted in Bregman and Crochet. How's that working out for Boston? When the Mets are trying to figure out who's their third baseman, who's their second baseman, and a bunch of prospects that they still can't make a decision on. Because that's what happens. You got indecisiveness from your president of the baseball ops and the indecisiveness of not making moves and making a decision on these guys, because keeping them tells me that you can't make a decision on these guys because either none of them panned out or you just can't make the move because you're afraid one of them is going to turn out to be better than everybody else. You can't worry about that. All I worry about is the asset I'm bringing in. Does that guy help me more? I don't care what this guy is doing on a bad team, because you're not trading with a good team at the deadline. You're trading with a bad team. Why do we care what Luisano Acuna would do for the Miami Marlins? You shouldn't. If you do, oh wait, yes you do. I'm sorry. You talked about Drew Gilbert. How's that working out for the Giants, by the way? I always want the proven talent over prospects. If you're going to tell me in the start of the season that, you know what, we really believe this guy is ready, whoever it might be, don't care. You have an open position, and it's the winter meetings, you're going through all this stuff, you're looking at a position player, and you're like, you know what? I really think this is the guy. But be like confident in your decision. The Mets were never confident in that decision. With Baty, with Acuna, they just assumed Vientos was just going to take off again, which is fine. I understand that. I have no problem with that. It didn't turn out the way we all expected, but that happens. That's not Stearns' fault with Vientos. He had a great year last year when he took over for Baty, and nobody could have predicted this. But when you don't make decisions on certain guys, it tells me that your indecisiveness, either you're not good at evaluating these guys, or you're just indecisive about trading these guys. Because all of a sudden, we're going to be talking about this in 3 days. If the Mets don't make the playoffs, instead of talking about a playoff preview, we're going to be talking about a season in review. And we're going to talk about this because that's going to be the topic of conversation. It's annoying. But in about 30 minutes, the Mets still have a chance here. It's very slim. And the good news is that if the Mets win today, they are alive tomorrow, regardless of what the Reds do. And we play at 4 o'clock. The Reds play at 7 o'clock. You win a ball game, it puts all the pressure on the Reds. That's what you got to do. I don't know what we're going to get out of Clay Holmes. I have no idea. No idea. I'm not even predicting anything. I mean, I have it in my head what I think he's going to do. I'm not even going to waste your time. I'm not. I'm sorry. It's not even worth anybody's time to say that nonsense. Clay Holmes needs to have the start of his life. I don't even know if his body can handle it anymore, let alone, pitch a quality start. But you got a good pitcher on the mound in Yuri Perez, got an electric arm, but he can get wild. If he's wild, the Mets can take advantage of it. But again, the Mets usually don't take advantage of anything. So who knows? But I don't trust Clay Holmes. The lineup doesn't have Mullins. Ronnie Mauricio is at third base because Brett Beatty is on the IL. He has a rib issue. And there is a possibility if the Mets make the playoffs, he would be available, or he would try to be available. Like, it's not to the point where it's like season ending. And he has been working out. He's been trying to, because again, you go on the IL 2 days before the season's over, you can come back right in the playoff roster. So we'll see. And oh, by the way, didn't I say yesterday the Mets can't win low-scoring games? I don't care what anybody says. You could talk about the Mets not scoring more runs. The Mets lineup gave him a 2-0 lead. Can we actually hold it for once? They are allergic to a low-scoring victory. And great, Dylan Ross, wonderful. Don't care. I don't. He has location concerns. He's got an electric arm. He's got nasty stuff, but he is a guy that tends to be wild. He's had a great year in AAA. This just gives another guy that Mendoza has no clue how he's going to perform, who's probably going to pitch today. Because who's pitching? But listen, the lineup for the Mets is Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, Marte DH, and McNeil, Alvarez, Mauricio playing third base, and Taylor's back in center field. There's no other time but now to save your season. The only way you save your season is to win. That's the only control that you have. If you win today, 162, you're alive, and you have an opportunity. You can't control what the Reds do. You can't control what the Brewers do against the Reds. All you can do is control what you're doing against the Marlins. That is it. Play a solid game, limit the mistakes, and you win. The Mets haven't lost games because they played well. They've lost games because they can't field. They make stupid throws. They make stupid decisions. And the at-bats in certain times of the game are just embarrassing. You got to limit the mistakes. This is a Marlins team that should be beatable. You limit the mistakes. You don't give them extra opportunities. You saw what happened yesterday when you gave them extra opportunities by making silly mistakes. Silly mistakes that wasn't by rookies. These are by veterans that were making rookie mistakes. You can't make those mistakes and think you're going to get away with it every single time. So get it done. I will be doing a post game, win or lose. We could be talking about elimination. I could be talking about the death of the Mets 2025 season, or we could talk about the Mets winning, staying alive, and now we watch the Brewers and Reds play. Because again, the Brewers have something to play for. The Brewers still have an opportunity to hold on to that first seed in the National League, which obviously is important. You get home field advantage throughout the playoffs up until the World Series, depending on the record of them and the American League. I think they would have the best record anyway, but still, you got to just hope that the Brewers win one out of these next two games. Just win one. Win today and worry about tomorrow. And you know what? All hands are on deck. The Mets have no idea who their pitcher is going to be tomorrow. No idea. So that means whatever the Mets need pitching-wise is going to be available, probably except Sean Manaea. I think everybody's available. Everybody. Whoever's on their throw day as a starter, David Peterson, maybe Tong. I know it's crazy, but you gotta have these guys ready on their throw days. And yeah, Kev, Nolan can be a bullpen possibility on Sunday, which would be fine. That would be his throw day. So, and yeah, Kev, he couldn't lose that rookie status, but I think it's highly unlikely. Like, I don't think the Mets. I mean, I'd be shocked. I don't think he's going to pitch more than 2 innings. I mean, look, if it's do or die, he better. But again, I don't want to overuse him either, because if you happen to win that game and you make the playoffs, who's pitching Tuesday for game 1? Peterson? I guess you have to. But look, that's beside the point. I'm not worried about tomorrow. Today's the day I worry about. This is do or die for the Mets. What team is going to show up? Is it the team that looks like they should have been all season and play a solid all-around game? Or is this the team we're going to see that we've seen over the last 4 months? It's up in the air because we have no idea. That is how inconsistent they have been and untrustworthy they have been. There's no confidence in me going into this game. If I tell you my true feelings, I think they're going to lose. But as a fan, I always got that hope in the back of my mind because I'm an idiot. Just like most of us think like that. We all have hope. If we didn't have a little bit of hope, you wouldn't be watching me and you wouldn't turn on the game and watch them. You'd be enjoying your Saturday, your weekend. But a little bit of hope is the reason why you turn on YouTube and hang out with me for an hour. That little bit of hope is what makes you turn on the TV at 4:10 for game 161. Because we can all feel like they're going to lose. We can all feel like they're going to fall on their face and choke. But there's always that little bit of hope to make us turn on that channel. And it gives us that little bit of hope, makes you turn on and hang out with me. And that's all we have. Because the confidence isn't there, but the hope is there. And let's hope the Mets win today, because it guarantees them life tomorrow and the opportunity to at least get a chance. And remember, we all play at 3 o'clock tomorrow. So if the game matters tomorrow, you're going to be scoreboard watching while watching a Met game. It's just that simple. I will be doing a post game tonight, guys, after the game. And while that game is over, and depending on what the Mets do, the Reds game will start. And while I'm doing the post game, I'll be updating you during the Reds game, telling you what's going on. And no matter what tomorrow, I'll be doing a pregame and a post game, regardless if the games mean nothing or not. And look, the game doesn't mean nothing. And you know what, Paul, if the Reds and Mets both lose, great. That means we're alive tomorrow. It's not exactly how I wanted it, but it is what it is. But if the game doesn't mean nothing tomorrow for the New York Mets, I will be doing a pregame. I will be doing a postgame. You know why? Because I've been told that people like to come and hear my crazy rants. Because negativity sells, apparently. I'd rather be happy and excited about postseason baseball. But as Met fans, we don't have that luxury very often because our team constantly chokes. And we're used to this as Met fans, unfortunately. So with that said, guys, I want you guys to enjoy the game in about 20 minutes. keep that hope, even though it's dwindling by the hour. I'll see you later on today. I'm hoping we're talking about a Mets win because that'll make me feel a lot better. Not really, but enough to say, hey, no matter what the Reds do, we're alive tomorrow. We can have an opportunity to clinch tomorrow, regardless. As long as we're playing game 162 and it matters, I'll be okay. Not excited because they don't deserve my excitement. I don't know how excited I will be if they clinch and make a playoff, get a playoff spot, because I just don't know how this rotation is going to work out when there's really nobody other than Nolan McLean that can be competent. But there's hope. With that said, guys, thank you for tuning in to the Amazing Mets pregame show right here on the channel and on X. Hit that like button, guys. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification button, guys, because after the game today, win or lose, there will be a post-game show, guys. So enjoy the game, guys. I'll see you in a couple of hours, and let's go Mets.
Seven train rumble, headed to the field. Orange and blue vibes, the energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, repping both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire.